Welcome back to the Semi-Informed Football Podcast, the podcast where we skip the obvious talking points and dig into the real tactical chaos of the 2026 World Cup.
Look, everyone and their grandmother is talking about France repeating or Messi's final ride with Argentina or Brazil's Samba engine. We get it. They're great. But World Cups aren't won in a vacuum. And with this massive new 48-team bracket, the door is wide open for absolute anarchy. What do you say, Marko?
Exactly. Today we are focusing entirely on the true dark horses. We're talking about the plucky underdogs who are just happy to make the round of 16. We are analyzing the 6 teams outside of the top 5 favorites who have tactical identity, world-class star power, and the bracket path to actually lift the trophy on July 19th.
Yes, so let's get into it. Mark, kick us off. Who is the team number 1 on your list?
My first dark horse pick is Ecuador.
All right, Ecuador, that's a pretty bold start. So, yeah, go on.
All right, hear me out. If you want to win a tournament under the scorching North American summer heat, you need a defensive fortress. And during South American qualifying, Ecuador was a literal brick wall. They conceded just 5 goals across the entire qualification cycle. 5. So in South America, they play 18 matches. And that includes home and away matches against teams like Argentina, Brazil, Uruguay, Colombia, Paraguay. 5 goals. That's all they gave up. They're built on a terrifyingly rigid structural blueprint. And in a single elimination tournament, a team that refuses to concede is a team that can march all the way to the final.
Okay, you know what? I love a clean sheet as much as any self-respecting defender, but let's look at the actual reality. Who's scoring goals when it's 1-1 in the 88th minute or the round of 16 match? Enter Valencia is 36 years old. He's a legend, absolutely, but you cannot rely on veteran playing his final tournament to carry the entire offensive weight of a nation against a European center back.
You're trapped in the past, Marko. Yes, Valencia is the spiritual leader. But the real reason Ecuador can win the whole thing is their youth infusion. Have you watched Kendry Paez? I mean, this kid is a literal teenage prodigy. He brings that unpredictable creative spark in the midfield that forces defenses to collapse on him. And behind him, you have Chelsea's Moises Caicedo anchoring the midfield. And the defensive dynamo of Arsenal's Piero Hincapié and PSG's William Pacho controlling the back line. It's the perfect blend of young elite European experience combined with their South American tournament savvy.
Okay, so Paez is great. I'm going to give you that. But they're trapped in Group E with Germany and Ivory Coast, who we've seen gave France a whole lot of trouble with that win. Now, if they sign up with the opening match against the Ivorians, this brick wall defense is going to face some immense mental pressure. I think they're a great quarterfinal exit story, but world champions, I don't know. The lack of an elite prime age number 9 really kind of kills them.
Okay, so there's that old adage, defense wins championships. Defensive stability wins international tournaments, Marko. Just watch. But let's turn it over to Mateo. Mateo, who's your first pick?
You know what? I'm going to stay in South America, but I'm going to pivot to a team that doesn't just defend, they destroy you on the break. My first dark horse is Colombia.
Los Cafeteros. Okay, I can't argue with their recent form. Nestor Lorenzo has them cooking.
Cooking. That's it. Mark, they've been an absolute juggernaut. Their primary weapon is high-intensity, ruthless transition play, and during qualifying, they scored more goals from fast breaks than any other CONMEBOL nation. They blend classic South American technical flair with a brutal, high-energy midfield, featuring Jefferson Lerma and Richard Rios. They do the dirty work, they get possession back, and boom, you're dead.
Okay, but it's a beautiful system when it works, Mateo. But let's talk about the emotional narrative here. And we've talked about this off the pod. You're banking heavily on James Rodriguez. You always talk about him. But you're banking heavily that he's going to replicate his 2014 fairy tale. Hummus is the emotional heartbeat, yes, but he's playing a last dance style of football. He runs less, he thinks more. If an elite athletic midfield like France or England tags him out of the game, does Colombia have a plan B?
Plan B. Plan B is named Luis Diaz, one of your favorite players on this planet. He's at the absolute peak of his powers right now. So you don't need James alone to run 12 kilometers a game when you have Lucho Diaz tearing down the wing in 1-versus-1 situations. He is a nightmare transition weapon. And let's not forget the Diaspora advantage. Playing these games in the US and Mexico home matches. The stadium will be a sea of yellow as we saw in the Copa America. The atmospheric pressure on their opponents will just be suffocating.
Okay, true. The Colombian crowds will be insane. They travel in crazy numbers. But let's look at the potential knockout path. If they finish second to Portugal in Group K, which is most likely, they slide right into a brutal side of the bracket that likely forces them to play Argentina or Brazil before even sniffing the final. They have a tendency to lose tactical focus against teams with elite off-the-ball movement. So, and then if Diaz gets frustrated, the whole system stalls.
They Chaos 2026, and we'll see that soon enough.
Amazing. So let's fly over to Europe. Let's take a look at my first pick here. This is ultimate, high ceiling, top heavy, dark horse. I'm talking about Norway.
Oh, come on. Marko, seriously, Norway. They haven't qualified for a World Cup since 98. They have zero tournament pedigree, and you can't just walk back into the party after 28 years and magically take the trophy home. Come on.
All right. Okay, normally, I would agree with you, but knockout international football isn't really about deep roster pedigree. Sometimes it's decided by kind of moments of pure, unadulterated individual genius. Norway happens to possess two of the top 5 players on the planet.
Let me guess, the Viking and the conductor?
Correct. You're talking about Erling Haaland. He's almost a human cheat code. He gives Norway a really penalty box assassin. Can score from anywhere. He's turning every match he can and completely outplayed other teams for 80 minutes and turned it into 1-0 win. You don't really need 60% possession when you have a guy who can score from half a chance. And feeding him is Martin Odegaard, who provides elite vision and midfield control.
Okay, sick. You gave 2 good players, fair enough. But what happens when Haaland gets isolated? We've seen it at the club level. If you cut off supply to Haaland, he gets starved. And outside of Odegaard, Norway's midfield depth is paper thin. If Leo Østigard or their keeper has one bad day in a round of 32 match against a balanced team like Belgium or even Ecuador, Norway's toast. You can't.
Yeah, but Mateo is really not a 2-man army. That's the narrative shift that people are missing. You got to look at the wings. You look at Oscar Bob, Antonio Nusa, and they've emerged as explosive, unpredictable X factors. They offer raw, dynamic pace that forces opposing fullbacks to stay wide. If you double team or triple team Haaland in the box, Bob or Nusa will punish you on the flanks.
I mean, it's an incredible fantasy, Marko, but I look at Group I, they're stuck with France and Senegal. That's a grueling, highly physical group stage. By the time Norway even reaches the knockout rounds, if they do, their core starting 11 is going to be running on fumes because their bench depth simply isn't there. Yes, Haaland can bag a hat-trick against Iraq, sure, but can he do it against a deep French or Brazilian defense in the quarterfinals when he's tired? I seriously doubt it.
Yeah, I think if Haaland is hot, logic really goes out the window. He's kind of this bracket buster.
All right, back to me. So I'm going to introduce a team here that doesn't have Norway's depth issues because their entire 26-man roster is composed of top-flight European League starters. My second dark horse is the Ivory Coast.
Les éléphants. Okay, now we're talking 2024 AFCON champs.
Oh, oui. Ever since Emerse Faye took over, this team has become completely chaos-proof. Their entire identity is built on elite physical stature and incredible structure adaptability. They are a tactical chameleon. They can dominate the ball, or they can sit in a concrete mid-block and choke you out.
Okay, Listen, no argument on their physicality, Mateo. Frank Kessie is an absolute general in the engine room, and that defense with Evan Ndikia and Odilon Kosunu is world class. But here is my tactical dispute. Ivory Coast thrives on emotional momentum. Their AFCON win in 24, mind you, was a beautiful, chaotic miracle where they basically rose from the dead multiple times. But the World Cup layout is a different beast. If they face a highly disciplined European low block like a Sweden or an Austria, they often struggle to find creative variance through the middle.
Okay, this is where I disagree with you here because they don't need to force it through the middle because their wingers are absolutely lightning. Simon Adingra, for one, is a flat-out nightmare one-on-one. He can bypass elite fullbacks from a standstill, and up front, they have Sebastian Haller for clutch hold-up play. If an opponent plays a low block, Haller draws center-backs away, making a massive space for Adingra and Umar Diakite to slash inward, not to mention Diamande on the wing as well.
Okay. If it works, if they top Group E over Germany, but if they finish second, their projected path is a total horror show. They would immediately play the winner of Group I, which could mean a massive, emotionally draining clash against France. Irrespective of what Marko just said, I know they beat France, but this is the World Cup now, not a friendly. And then meet France in the round of 32. Do they have the tactical patience to survive 3 consecutive heavyweight European matches without losing their defensive shape?
I would say yes. This team literally stared elimination in the face on 3 different occasions in 2024 in the AFCON and won the whole thing. They've shown they don't really panic, Mark. They have the psychological armor required for a deep knockout run. They are built for tournament suffering and can compete with the greatest in the world on their day.
Awesome. Let's transition from a team built on physical suffering to a team built on absolute surgical perfection. I got a soft spot in my final pick, and that's Japan.
Hi, the Samurai Blue. Okay. I knew you were going to go bring them in to the equation. You love a good tactical whiteboard team, so let's hear it.
Okay, this system wins World Cups, Mateo. Japan is no longer an underdog trying to pull off a lucky giant killing. They're a highly sophisticated footballing machine. Under Hajime Moriyasu, they have mastered the art of tactical shapeshifting. They can switch from a back 4 to a back 3 mid-game without losing a single beat of structural discipline. They set precise pressing traps, compress passing lanes, and execute transitional phases with terrifying clockwork precision.
I mean, I do respect the system, Marko. I really do. But their technical quality is beautiful to watch as well. Karu Mitoma is a wizard on the left flank, and Kubo also provides elite creative flair, absolutely. But let's look at more historical Achilles heels of Japanese football. Where is the world-class ruthless number 9? When you are dominant in a quarterfinal game against a team like Uruguay or so forth, and you need a physical presence to bully a center back and smash a loose ball into the back of the net, Japan doesn't have that elite target man, and they never really have.
Yeah, you know what? They don't play with a traditional target man. Their entire 4 kind of acts as a fluid rotational menace. They rely on late box arrivals and overwhelming technical combinations. For instance, look at Wataru Endo. Anchoring that midfield, he shields the defense perfectly, allowing Mitoma, Kubo to isolate defenders. And while Takahiro Tomiyasu provides elite versatility across the backline, they can absorb pressure from traditional physical strikers.
Okay, fine, but look at the group. Group F has Netherlands, Sweden, and Tunisia. Sweden is going to test them with intense aerial bombardment. If Japan gets drawn into a gritty physical aerial war, their structural perfection gets disrupted. If they finish second in that group, they instantly enter a gauntlet path that puts them on a collision course with Germany, France, or even Spain. Without a clinical number 9 to maximize their, limited counterattacking opportunities in those deep rounds, they're going to pass teams to death, but ultimately lose the game 1-0.
You know what? I find like international football is really moving away from that single striker, Mateo. Japan's collective chemistry really is their superpower. Nobody wants to face them in the knockout bracket. You forgot that they beat both European powerhouses Spain and Germany in the last World Cup, and this time they're even better, to tell you the truth. And the first Asian country to ever break that European South American stranglehold on the World Cup.
All right. For my final pick, I'm bringing out the ultimate African powerhouse, a team that perfectly bridges the gap between raw physical dominance and elite tournament experience. I'm talking Senegal.
The Lions of Teranga. Now, this one here is actually a fascinating pick because they always look so terrifying on paper.
Because they're terrifying on the pitch. Senegal's a tournament-hardened squad. They aren't going to suffer from the tactical naivety that catches some outside nations off guard. They have an elite midfield engine with Pape Matar Sarr and Lamine Camara. Their relentless box-to-box energy combined with level tactical maturity. So these guys, they choke out the middle of the park. And they physically bully teams off the park.
Okay, their physical stature is undeniable. Absolutely, Mark. Like Khalidou Koulibaly, he still brings immense authority to that back line, even though he's old, but still, he has that presence with him. Let's talk about transition play, though. For years, Senegal's entire tactical game plan was give the ball to Sadio Mane and pray. Like, let's be real. Mane's a legend, okay? I'm not just throwing it, Liverpool plugs, but I'll be real. He is entering the twilight of his career, though. Can this team smoothly transition into a new era where they aren't relying on Mane's individual brilliance to bail them out of tight games?
They have already transitioned, Mateo. That's why they're my dark horse for 2026. They're spearheaded now by Nicholas Jackson, and he's entering this tournament in red-hot club form, playing as a premier modern forward. He brings an intense defensive work rate from the front, incredible spatial awareness, and lethal transitional movement. Mane doesn't need to carry the team anymore. He can act as the veteran closer, the mentor to young wingers like Ismail Assar and Iliman Ndiaye.
I mean, look, Jackson is dynamic. That's a good word for him, but he can still be highly erratic with his finishing in high-pressure environments. And I know it was a season ago, but I'm thinking back to his Chelsea days. In a World Cup knockout match, you might only get one clear-cut chance against a team like Brazil or England, whoever comes your way. And if Jackson blinks, Senegal goes home. Plus, on top of that, their group stage is a nightmare gauntlet. Being drawn with France and Norway in Group I means they're going to have to exert immense physical energy just to survive the first round.
I think that group stage actually works to their advantage because it forces them to lock into tournament mode immediately. Senegal matches up against Erling Haaland's Norway. Okay, his physical profile better than almost any backline in the world. If they survive that group, they're going to be completely battle tested for the single elimination rounds. They have the depth, they have the spine, and they don't fear anyone.
There you have it. 6 teams, 6 entirely distinct paths to potential glory. From the defensive steel of Ecuador to mechanical brilliance of Japan and the world-stopping star power of Norway.
And don't forget the physical juggernauts of Colombia, Ivory Coast, and Senegal. Look, traditional favorites are sweating for a reason here.
Sure, the 48-team layout is a minefield, and one of these 6 dark horses is going to step on it and blow the whole tournament wide open.
That's all the time we have today for Semi-4 Football Podcast. Hit the subscribe button, follow, leave a comment, letting us know which of the 6 dark horses you're backing to win it all, as we do our best to keep you
semi-informed.